I'm Lauren Taylor. We begin in the Middle East, where Lebanese media say at least one person has been killed and several others wounded after Israel launched dozens more strikes on the south and east of the country. Israel says it's continuing to target Hezbollah sites and called on Lebanese civilians to move away from the militant group's locations. In a statement, the IDF showed videos and animations of what it said were hidden missile sites in Lebanon, buildings with projectiles stored inside, which the spokesperson said could be opened up to allow for launch. In this particular case, the Israeli military also showed a video of a building being destroyed. There have been days of escalating cross-border strikes between Israel and the Iranian-backed militia after last week's pager and walkie-talkie attacks, which killed dozens and injured thousands in Lebanon. President Biden said he was pushing hard to prevent a wider war, while the head of the UN has warned that Lebanon could become another Gaza. Well, here's the latest on the strikes from our correspondents in Jerusalem and Beirut. I spoke to Yolande Nell and Hugo Bashega earlier.
It seems that these are extensive airstrikes being carried out by the Israeli military targeting Hezbollah positions across the country. The Israeli military has warned residents to stay away from positions being used by Hezbollah, also places where Hezbollah is believed to be hiding a weapon. So this is another sign of the intensification of this Israeli campaign against Hezbollah. And I think we're seeing here a very dangerous new phase in this conflict, because Hezbollah remains defiant. Yesterday we heard from the number 2 of the group, Naim Qassem, who gave a speech at the funeral here in Beirut of one of the senior commanders who was killed in that Israeli airstrike on Friday. And he said that Hezbollah was going to continue to attack Israel, that these attacks are going to continue until there is a ceasefire in Gaza, and that these Israeli attacks are not going to stop the group. So again, Hezbollah promising to respond, Hezbollah remaining defiant, and the Israelis are saying that this is just the beginning, that they want to change the situation along the border, and the speculation has been that this could be the beginning of a wider offensive that could even include a ground invasion of southern Lebanon to create a so-called buffer zone along the border to push Hezbollah fighters away from the border and to allow the return of tens of thousands of residents who've been displaced from communities in northern Israel because of this conflict. So growing fears of an escalation here in this conflict, and obviously the possibility of a wider war, because yesterday we saw that not only rockets were fired from Hezbollah, but also missiles were fired from an Iranian-backed militia in Iraq, which could be an indication that if there is a wider conflict, it wouldn't be limited to Lebanon and Israel.
And there have been calls from international leaders, including President Biden, for de-escalation. But from what it sounds like, from what you're hearing, that isn't the way it's heading, is it?
Exactly. I think the signs coming from both Israel and Hezbollah is that they're not interested in backing down. Again, Hezbollah is a resistance movement. One of its main reasons for existence is to fight Israel. And the Israelis are saying that the situation along the border is unsustainable, and that no country would accept being on the receiving end of rockets almost every day, and that they want to change the situation to allow the return of those residents who've been displaced by this conflict. So again, I think the indications here are that both sides are getting ready for a major war.
Hugo Bashega, thank you very much indeed. Thanks for joining us, Yolande. So tell us a little bit about what's been said this morning from Israel about the latest attacks in Lebanon on Hezbollah sites.
Yeah, so there was a news conference where you had the military spokesman, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, speaking to journalists that was shown live as well. And he was really saying that what's happening at the moment, these extensive strikes that are being carried out, were in response to plans he said had been discovered that Hezbollah was planning to launch many more rockets, a large-scale rocket attack on Israel. And he said that, you know, this message had been passed to residents of southern Lebanon to keep away from Hezbollah posts. And he said the message to them was Hezbollah is endangering you, it's endangering your families. And he's really talking about how, from Israel's point of view, Hezbollah has for several years now been putting missiles, including cruise missiles, in buildings which are very close to civilian areas in southern Lebanon. And to illustrate this point, he showed showed an aerial video which he said indicated that there were Hezbollah operatives that were about to launch a cruise missile, and that then there was an Israeli strike that he said stopped that from happening. Now, he was asked directly about this issue of whether there could be a ground incursion by Israel into southern Lebanon, and his message was that Israel would do whatever it takes to return those displaced residents, tens of thousands of them, to their homes. That is a message we have heard repeatedly from Israeli leaders in recent days.
Meanwhile, Israel's still fighting Hamas in Gaza. How difficult will it be for Israel to conduct a war both in Gaza and in Lebanon at the same time?
I mean, that's definitely been something that has been brought up repeatedly by the Israeli media. We know that there was one whole division that was involved in some of the most intense fighting in Gaza that was then just recently transferred up to the north so that it could be involved in the ongoing fighting against Hezbollah. So that does show that resources are being shifted. We've been told that the center of gravity, as far as Israel is concerned, is moving to the north. But you're right, yes, this still goes on in Gaza. It's very much connected with what happens in Gaza, as Hezbollah has been saying that until there's a ceasefire there, it would continue its attacks on Israel.
Ilan Nell there.